It's different. It's a different time of year. It's near Christmas. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's like Friday night. Snow. Absolutely. Sure. Yeah. Shall follow your lead and the chair. Chairperson done an excellent job. She goes for a second. So
I was thinking this was my last, see.
very good. Speaking, me neither.
So
I tell you're doing an excellent job. Very, very professional. And today, some of this now. Sometimes. Oh, don't you? It's switcher. Yeah. It's not be.
we're just waiting a couple minutes for a member who's not here yet, and then we'll get started. This- I don't think so anyway. And we were waiting.
Sure.
No, you. This way.
Wait, you will be. Little do you know.
Good. Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order at 2:01 p.m. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the meeting. I'm Melinda McGregor. I'm your chair of the Committee of Adjustments. To my right, I have Michelle Kelly. Most of you may know she's the secretary treasurer. We have Nick Cicchini as our planning department representative. And then we have Anthony Rossi, Frank Bruni, Wayne Greco, and Joseph Greco as our committee members. Michelle.
Madam Chair, we'll open our meeting with the land acknowledgement. I acknowledge with respect that we're in the Robinson Huron Treaty Territory and that the land on which we are gathered is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and known as Bawating. Bawating is the home of Garden River First Nation, Batchewana First Nation, and the historic Sault Ste. Marie Métis Council. Madam Chair, I've not had any notice of disclosure of pecuniary. Is there any disclosure to be disclosed? Seeing none, we'll record none. If I could have a motion for the minutes of October 18th.
Okay, moved by Anthony. Second by Joseph. All in favor?
Thank you. And I had no requests at this point for withdrawal or a deferral. So we'll move straight to item 1 on your agenda, tab 1. That's application A2223. It's an application from Brock Hilderly for 31 Foothill Road. And is Mr. Hilderly in the gallery? No. We'll continue. There's no objections, Madam Chair, so we'll continue with the application. Okay. It is located on the south side of Foothill Road, approximately 95 meters west of the Foothill Road Gooley Avenue intersection. It is designated rural area in the official plan and is zoned R2 single unit residential. In accordance with section 45(1) or 2 of the Planning Act as applies, the applicant seeks relief from the provisions of bylaw 2005-150 as amended by permitting the gross floor area of the proposed garage to be greater than the gross floor area of the main building. Specifically, section 9.1.8 of bylaw 2005-150 states that the maximum gross floor area of any accessory building shall not be greater than the gross floor area of the main building. The applicant seeks to increase the maximum gross floor area of the proposed garage from 85.19 square meters to 111.48 square meters. Notice of public hearing was sent by personal mail to neighboring properties, by posting a sign on site, and by posting on the city website. The following internal departments and external agencies were invited to comment. No concerns were raised that would preclude this application from moving forward. Specifically, Algoma Public Health had no response. Bell Canada right-of-way, no response. Building Division, no objections. Wish to remind the applicant that a building permit is required. Conservation Authority had no objections. Engineering and Construction had no objections, no response. Fire Services had no comment. And those are my submissions, Madam Chair, and I'm not sure if there's anyone in the gallery from the public that wishes to speak.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Is there anybody in the gallery who wishes to speak on this matter? No? Okay, with that, I'll ask if the committee members have any questions for Michelle. No? Okay, I'll close the discussion and ask for any comments or to put forth a motion.
For the motion.
Okay, thank you, Wayne. Second by Anthony. Thank you. All in favor? Perfect. And motion passed.
Moving on to tab 2 on your agenda. It would be application 82423, and this is an application from Regis and Melanie Emon, owner of 25 Herrick Street. It is located on the south side of Herrick Street between Pilgrim Street and Pym Street. It is designated residential in the official plan and is zoned R3 low density residential. In accordance with section 45(1) or 2 of the Planning Act, the applicant seeks relief from the provisions of bylaw 2005-150 as amended by legitimizing the height of a recently constructed detached garage. Specifically, section 9.1.5 states that a maximum building height is 6 meters. The applicant seeks to increase the maximum building height of the existing garage to 6.2 meters. Notice of public hearing was sent by personal mail to neighboring properties, by posting a sign on site, and by posting on the city website. The following internal departments and external agencies were invited to comment. No concerns were raised that would preclude this application from moving forward. Bell Canada right-of-way had no response. Building Division advised no comments or concerns. Conservation Authority had no objections. Engineering and Construction had no comments. Fire Services had no comment. Legal Department had no comment. Planning Division had no objections. PUC Electric Utility had no concerns, neither did the Water Utility. My comments are to advise the committee that the application came apart because there's a slight grade differential around the garage. Non-compliance was revealed on a final inspection and no evidence has been presented to suggest that approval would have a negative impact. I didn't have any contact made with abutting neighbors, so we'll need to move forward with it.
Michelle? And is there anybody here to speak on the matter?
Right there.
Oh, okay.
Mr.
Hi. Did you want to come up to the podium? Hey, do you have any questions for Michelle or any comments for the committee members? Okay, thank you.
Straightforward application, so it wasn't for the fact that I had to increase my door height and I needed 11 more inches of clearance, the door opener. It's exactly what I'm out too high, 11 inches.
Okay,
So that's it.
thank you. And any questions for Mr. Edmund from committee members? No? Okay, and I'll close the discussion then and I'll ask for a motion. Okay, thank you, Frank. Second by Joseph, and all in favor? Okay, motion passed. And you don't have to stick around if you're done.
Moving on to tab 3, it's an application 82523. The applicant is Jerry and Jackie Lanigan, and I know that they're in the gallery. And Mr. Lanigan's making his way to the podium. This civic address is 197 Old Gooley Bay Road. It's located on the west side of Old Gooley Bay Road between 3rd Line East and 4th Line East, and is designated rural area in the official plan and is owned RA rural area. In accordance with section 45(1) or 2 of the Planning Act, the applicant seeks relief from the provisions of bylaw 2005-150 as amended by reducing the south side yard setback to facilitate the construction of a 5.48 meter by 9.75 meter detached garage. Specifically, section 8.5.2 requires a minimum interior side yard of 5 meters. The applicant wishes to reduce the south interior side yard to 1.82 meters for the proposed detached garage only. Notice of public hearing was sent by personal mail to neighboring properties by posting a sign on site and by posting on the city website. The following internal departments and external agencies were invited to comment. No concerns were raised that would preclude this application from moving forward. Specifically, Bell Canada right-of-way had no response. Building Division, no objection. Conservation Authority, no objection. Engineering and Construction did not respond. Fire Services had no response. Legal Department, no comment. Planning Division, no objections. PUC Electric, no concerns. PUC Water Utility, no concerns. The garage will be used for boat storage. It's my understanding that it'll be used for boat storage. The applicants want to use the existing paved driveway as it would provide unimpeded access to the garage. Meeting the bylaw setback would require making a sharp turn into the garage and would be difficult to maneuver with a boat and trailer. No evidence has been presented to suggest that approval would have a negative impact. And those are my submissions, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you.
And again, it's Mr. Lanigan at the podium.
Mr. Lanigan, do you have any questions for Michelle or further comments for the committee? Okay. Thank you. And committee members, do you have any questions for Mr. Lanigan? So with that, I'll close the discussion and I'll ask for a motion. Motion by Anthony and second by Joseph. All in favor? Okay, motion passed. And again, Mr. Lanigan, you don't have to stick around for the remainder. Thank you.
So moving on to tab 4 on your agenda, which is application 82623, which is an application from Kurt Knitsny. Excuse me if I've pronounced that wrong. Civic number 474 Albert Street West, and he is represented by Paul DeClerc, who both are in the gallery. It is located on the easterly side of Albert Street East, approximately 10.6 meters from Albert Street East and March Street intersection. It is designated commercial in the official plan and is zone C2 commercial transitional zone and is subject to site plan control. The applicant is seeking relief from the provisions of bylaw 2005-150 as amended by reducing the yard requirements and required parking spaces to facilitate the construction of a residential fourplex. Specifically, section 13.3.2 requires a minimum front yard of 7.5 meters. The applicant seeks to reduce the minimum front yard to 5.2 meters. Requires a minimum interior side yard of 7.5 meters. The applicant seeks to reduce the northerly side yard to 1.3 meters and the southerly side yard to 1.8 meters. Requires a minimum rear yard setback of 10 meters. The applicant seeks to reduce that setback to 7.5 meters. Section 5.7, minimum required parking spaces is 5 spaces. The applicant seeks to reduce the required parking spaces to 3 spaces. Notice of public hearing was sent by personal mail to neighboring properties and by posting a sign on site and by posting on the city website. I had a letter of support stating support from a neighboring property owner, Mr. Tonello. Technical review circulated departments and agencies. The following internal departments and external agencies were invited to comment. And again, no concerns were raised that would preclude this application from moving forward. Bell Canada right-of-way was circulated. They had no response. Building Division advised that the property is designated as a brownfield site and a record of site conditions may be required. They also state that our GIS mapping records indicate that there are above-ground electrical conductors along Albert Street East. A swing calculation will be required to determine compliance with clearances as regulated by subsection 3.1.19 of the Ontario Building Code for proximity to existing above-ground electrical conductors. Conservation Authority had no objections. Engineering and Construction had no response. Fire Services had no comment. Legal Department had no comment. Planning Division staff noted that the commercial transitional zone, the CT2 zone, provides a mixed use of commercial, small office, and residential land uses. The zone aims to help the transition from the downtown commercial area to the residential area located north of the downtown area. The proposed development is within the intent of the CT2 zone, the official plan under policy C6, and the provincial policy statement under clause 1.4.3. The proposed change is consistent with the characteristics of the surrounding neighborhood. Planning staff are currently working on technical amendments that would further support developments of this nature. PUC Distribution Electric Utility advised that overhead secondary service to 472 Albert East may need to be relocated depending on the future development plan of 474 Albert Street East with the proposed front yard variance. PUC Commission, the water utility, had no concerns. Public Works had no concerns. Staff recommendations: above ground electrical conductors may impact how the site is developed and could impact the adjacent property. These matters would be considered during the review of a building permit application, as would the possible need for a record of site condition. The committee must consider the variances individually as well as their cumulative effect. Again, there's neighbor support of it. And just to point out to the applicant that any changes in the site plan down the road could involve a new application or make variances less than what's required. And those are my submissions, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Paul. And is Paul gonna come up to this? Yeah, perfect. We'll get to you. We'll let Paul speak. And then I'll ask if anybody in the gallery, you can come up, give your name, your address, and we'll go from there. Sounds good. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, so Paul, do you have any questions or comments for Michelle?
To do with we're addressing record of site condition. It's going to be the owner is going to proceed with site condition completed. Also, the electrical, we're going to be dealing with that in the near future, kind of thing. So, also, we kind of look at our client looks as positive development for the area. We want to make every attempt to make the pleasing. So we're working on a good plan for the area.
Thank you. This moment I'll ask, maybe Paul can step aside and ask any members in the audience to come up and we can hopefully get some answers for you.
My wife, Sheena Rouse, and her partner, Rossetti, own 472 Albert Street. We just have some concerns about the northerly variance. Right now, there's a shared parking lot between their. There's several concerns with that northerly boundary. It's wondering if they intend to build right up to that 1.3 variance, if that's going to leave about a little over a meter between buildings, right to that 2 or 3 meters, but it's going to be very, very interesting building, and it will not allow access down the remainder of the parking. There's also concerns about snow. If you intend to build right, that's be able in that section of the park. There's concerns about building that close, changing the structure that the building there does have. It's an old foundation. Just worried about that. Also, I guess, close, it's going to drastically change the layout and view to the south of their building. They purchased that building with the understanding that there was a park, at least partial access to that. This will essentially make their portion of that parking lot usable. Essentially. It's cheap, so.
I just want to clarify one thing and then we'll ask Paul to address concerns, and you may need to repeat them one at a time so that he can address them one at a time. But what access do you have between those two, between 472 and this lot?
Right now. It's a huge park. So,
But is it owned by,
oh, it's like a half of the paved parking. It's owned by. And
But-
see, so,
but there's no agreement for you to use the other half?
and
Yes,
previous,
maybe a handshake kind of agreement, but not,
the building, so that it won't allow you access to the, what's left of. that part of,
but this, if there's nothing legally permitting access between the two properties, there's nothing this committee can do to preserve that access.
yes,
Okay, I just wanted to be clear in case there was something registered on title that we weren't aware of and that you were aware of, but it appears that there isn't. So we can't preserve that access. And even if the variance were to fail, you don't really have a right to go over that, and neither do they.
yeah, it's just how close the building is, and then dealing issues of snow.
Mhm. Okay. And now Mr. De Klerk will attempt to address some of those concerns if you just step back for a minute. But the Ontario Municipal Board has ruled that none of us own our view. And so if we want to protect our view, we need to own it. And if you don't own that property next door, which is giving you that expanded view,
We understand, we just ask laws in place, certain distance. Or. like,
yeah,
Just ask those bylaws be honored, just like how they're building on laws, we ask that the neighbors honor that, have the same distances. Grant those views that I think bylaws probably take into.
so, and in order to go on that variance, if you could just explain, maybe have, how your view is improved. How much more of a view do you have? Where are we talking feet or a few meters view, or like we need to have a basis for that?
Variance, I think is it 7 something meters?
7.5 to 1 on the northerly yard to 1.3, yes.
That's 6
So,
6 meters, so should translate.
yeah,
That
mhm.
is dramatic distance, right?
yep.
Access to the sun that's coming south, if depending on buildings, but that is a distance.
And that's what I'm trying to get at, so that the committee then can consider those comments when you're saying view and the impact that that has on it. And now, Mr. De Klerk, if you'd.
Address some items in regards to building it. So we will reiterate fact that like the property, if there was any agreement that was in place to be probably a legal agreement that's in writing. My client does property, and like what we're trying to do here is make the project feasible in regards to the width of the building. And it kind of suits the neighborhood in regards to the, how close buildings are to each other for residential developments. That's kind of the first point. In regards to, you brought up about the foundation concern. And basically, like we're supervising crew, and one of the things we would address is dealing with excavation and making sure that that existing foundation doesn't get compromised. So, other points? Were there other points need to be addressed?
Mr. Roche, you did have a few more. You may want to mention them so that he can.
Yes. Yeah, I have a fair amount of experience with these kind of developments, and sometimes what we've done, if there's concern, we can look at the number of windows, that kind of thing on that side. We can't really do anything about the, like the view is, right, like Michelle pointed out, as far as the, each person, that kind of. But as far as windows thing, if there's any concern with the window spacing, what we've done in some cases, we could turn some of the windows up so that they're on an angle, so they don't project. I don't know if that's kind of a concern for privacy. As far as you did bring up property value, often new developments have a positive impact on property value, and we'll point that out. We're involved with a number of different developments where it can have a positive impact rather than negative. I guess my client's trying to develop this, and so it brings more apartment units to the downtown core. It's trying to address a need for housing in our community, and that's more or less where we're trying to develop the property, and that pause. I can understand your concern, as you've lived there a number of years. It certainly has. My client and I are prepared to do what we can to make it an easy transition, and that's kind of where design does come in. We'll try to address this, but the building is in regards to the building height and in the neighborhood, a lot of the buildings in 6 or 8 feet of each other, so it kind of conforms with the actual neighborhoods. That's our point, I guess. So, is there any other questions or?
Snow removal.
Snow removal. Snow will have to be removed from site because there's just not. One of the things I'd like to point out is actually we've put all the parking in the rear yard rather than the front yard, and I think most of the neighborhood has a lot of parking on the Albert Street side. So we're actually doing more for green space, that kind of thing. Yeah, for sure. No, we're prepared. Snow removal. So. Yeah, you had concern. it is a flat roof, so the snow would be staying basically within, so.
Well, maybe with that, then we'll ask committee members if they have some questions for, Paul or for
Mr. Rose? I had
or Mr. Rouse.
a question. Planning. Your notes indicate will change consistent with the characteristics of the surrounding neighborhood. That is within the intent of the provincial policy statement. And that amendments that our planning department is making support further developments of this nature. Can you just speak a little bit to that for all the parties to hear what the purposes are for under that statement from the province? Yes. Policy six. Policy C6 in the provincial policy statement. So I believe it has something to do with more of housing and this housing accessibility for Ontarians is how it goes, but I'm not a planning director. I don't want to speak outside of context.
Policy C6 of the official plan states that the downtown area includes an established residential.
You pull your mic.
Policy C6 indicates that the downtown area includes an established residential area. Substantial residential structures should be preserved. Existing residential development should be maintained and improved where practical. New residential development may be permitted on lands designated commercial within the downtown area, subject to zoning bylaw approval. That is policy C6 of the official plan.
Do you have any information there about the provincial policy statement by chance, or Michelle? I don't know if you've got that policy statement. Okay.
Well, as I stated in my comment, policy 1.4.3, planning authorities shall provide an appropriate range and mix of housing options and densities to meet projected market-based and affordable housing needs of the current and future residents of the regional market area.
Okay, so what that says, it's in our best interest to approve projects like these to increase housing accessibility, right?
According to the official and the provincial policy statement, yes.
Perfect, thank you.
It is to encourage it, but we still need to speak to the variances that are being requested.
Ready to make whatever the committee's ready.
And you'll,
I think we'll, question. I have a question as well. I'll let Frank have discussion.
Just so I'm clear on that, drawing SP1. It's for building the representative building speaking book.
Mr. Rose?
Oh, but is that the one on the drawing?
It's 470. Okay,
So that is showing representation of its orientation
yeah, I think.
Yeah.
on that SP1?
It is, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
That,
I do it, SP. Yeah,
This big one.
I brought it with me. Yeah, often with the Ontario Building Code, like we have to conform with the Ontario Building Code as well. So one of the things is spatial separation between the buildings. That's been addressed. That's and is to address it in relation to the Ontario Building Code as well for openings in that regard, because we're limited to the amount of openings based on the property line as well.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the orientation of the neighboring building.
Yeah.
It's appropriately depicted in the site. plan.
Yeah, from the records we had of
Okay.
seems fairly accurate. So
actually had a question. Yeah, I actually had a question in to that as well. What is your setback on your property? Do you know you don't know the setback from your building to your? So I just noticed it looks kind of. That hard. That's because we see like that certain. Staff as well. But with that, I think we'll pose the questions and we'll ask discussion and then we'll guys sit. Does anybody want to get?
The only thing I would, is I think the snow has been addressed. The angle of the roof being flat's been addressed, correct? No issues there, I don't believe on either side. The main issue, I think the stumbling block is the distance with regards to viewing from either aesthetics or the window placement. The privacy issue, is that true or false? Is that the remaining? Just want to be clear, because they're two separate things. Privacy, I think, is being addressed by angling of windows and such. It's making now the view. Read, except that you, sorry to interrupt you, but you do understand that there's the reason why the committee's here and other things to make these various changes as time moves on to 2005 by law, right? So that's the issue why we're here today. And if there's a way of finding some round or so on, it's making sure that what you brought forward and gentlemen have spoken to, it's addressed other than the viewing. Does that come down just to the viewing view? We've addressed this. Approval, we addressed the privacy issue. So if he's, no, and there's no guarantee, but I just quickly not speak above you, but I think he's guaranteed that he's going to be on sure that occurs. There's no one can guarantee removal of soil and movement of soil, things like the, I get that. So I think he's attempting to address that. He's asking is the main thing, the view. That's regard.
If I can speak, might point out too that, had we proposed like home for the residents, we'd be even closer to the property. If it was bungalow, we could be as 1.2 meters. So this building is actually further away than if we proposed. So there's, you know, the main plan is to create a development that's positive for your neighborhood. We understand their, you know, concerns.
Well, thank you.
So my, just to determine what was. Chair, Madam Subject.
It's like to. Whether it's comfort. It's not the. It's with the engineering. See the construction. So while he is, you know, they'll be monitoring that, it's because their expertise will be monitoring the type of issues you've suggested could occur with soil and that sort of thing. As well, one of the tests of a minor variance is the variance in the proposal in character with the area. That's a test that the applicant must pass, or the application must pass. And Mr. Burke has pointed out that many of the buildings in the area are the same or less. So it's not out of character. That's subjective, but yes, and that's what committees have to be looking at as tests. There's 4 tests, but that's one.
Do I have any other, because we kind of got a little, we're kind of gonna stick to just a discussion. Anybody else have any for the motion?
Help. With these drawings.
Comment to my fellow.
Sure.
I'd like to know how my fellow committee members are thinking on this application before I make a motion. Perhaps they could shine some light on this. Before I make a motion.
I also have just one more comment. Earlier it was the orientation of the or structure in alignment on the site plan with the proposed development. The distance between the variance on the side yard doesn't materially affect anything by it being 300 or 500 millimeters different. Your view is going to be your view regardless. There's no other positioning you can set that building that will create a better view. And then on the laneway side, your building is set back far enough. If that was in accordance with the setback, you still wouldn't get any improved or improved viewing. All other aspects of the application have been addressed. And I also believe that, you know, even if the building was set back, the property line is in its position forevermore until it's changed by a different mechanism. So the distance between that property line and your building is fixed. That will never change unless, well, never say never, but there's mechanisms to do that. So, you know, in my view of this, there is no material impact based on the positioning of your structure versus the existing structure that would be materially or improved at all if those adjustments were made. And you know, it serves the purposes of a functional building, you know, the fire escape, the access into the building. The parking is, you know, thoughtfully done on the laneway side, like was mentioned. So those are just my comments and thoughts and the reason why I asked that question.
Is Joe gonna get a comment? Or just asking?
I was just looking at my fellow committee members' opinions on where we're gonna go with this before I make a motion. I can incorporate that in my motion if I need to.
Is there any? I asked for a motion. The discussion and
I won't get the comments from. I'm intending on putting a motion forward to pass the application. I'm not sure what my other committee members are thinking.
yeah, I thought that was what Frank was kind of
Mr.
getting
Bosky?
at. And then I asked if anyone else.
Okay, thank you. That's all I need to know.
Okay, well, we'll close the discussion and I'll ask for a motion.
Okay, so I'm gonna put a motion in favor of the minor variance application in front of us. First part of the test, the approval offend the intent of the official plan based on the planning division's comments. No, it's explicitly written there that this would not offend that plan, and I'm in agreement with that. Would it offend the intent of the zoning bylaw? Once again, I refer to those comments. No, it would not, and I'm in agreement with those comments of the planning division. And my question was clearly answered by the representative of the planning division today on those two points. Number 3 goes without saying, is the variance desirable for the continued use of the property? I think absolutely it is, and it's conformant with the provincial policy statement to increase residential housing needs not only in the Sioux, but across the province. And is the variance minor? Yes. And is the variance is minor based on all the information in front of us today and based on what the applicant is seeking? It is my opinion that the variance is minor and therefore I motion for this minor variance application to be approved.
Okay, thank you, Joseph. Can I get a second? All in favor? Okay, so motion passed. Okay. Again, once your application is done, you don't have to stay in the gallery.
We have one. Let's wait till the gallery. And are you here to speak to application B29, that being 153 Daisy Road? Okay, good. And I don't see the applicant's representative here and thought they were coming. Okay, I'll just go through the application and since there's a neighboring property owner here, we'll hear the application, then make a decision whether to make the application or a motion to defer. Application B2923 is an application for Daniel Fremlin Holdings Inc. It's civic number 153 Daisy Road. It is located on the southwestern side of Daisy between Hardwood Street and Chambers Avenue. The subject property is designated residential in the official plan and is zoned R2 single detached residential and R4 medium density residential. The applicant is seeking the committee's consent to sever and convey an irregular shaped parcel fronting on Daisy Road as follows. 20.5 meters frontage on Daisy Road, irregular depth, 576.6 meters area for the square meters for the severed parcel, 79.73 meters of frontage on Daisy Road for the retained parcel, again, irregular in depth, 688.8 meters for the retained parcel. The intent of the application is to provide autonomous title to the residential development currently under construction. And that would be on that flag-shaped portion of the property, not including the school portion of that. The larger portion would remain at retained lands. Notice of public hearing was sent by personal mail to neighboring properties by posting a sign on site and by posting on the city's website. Algoma Public Health did not respond. Bell Canada right-of-way had no response. Building Division had no response. Canada Post arrangements have already been made with the owner for postal service. Conservation Authority had no objection. Engineering and Construction advised that easements will be required for shared servicing and access, operation and maintenance agreements are also recommended to determine cost and responsibilities for shared services. An environmental compliance approval from the MECP is likely required for the stormwater management facilities, and the site is subject to an existing site plan and agreement. Fire Services had no comment. Legal Department had no comment. Planning Division had no objections. PUC Distribution, the electrical utilities, had the following comments. PUC Electrical Division Utility has not received an electrical design package yet. Private electrical service easements may be required depending on the electrical service design. Public Utilities Commission, the water utility advised that servicing for the parent parcel, that is to say both the proposed retained and severed parcels, was approved by PUC under the condition that it services the entire parent parcel. If the property is severed, separate water servicing from the water main on Daisy Road will be required for the retained and severed parcels. PUC recommends the developer consult with their engineer regarding water servicing prior to proceeding with the severance. And I have no further information from the developer that has occurred. Public Works had no comments. And those are my submissions, Madam Chair. We may wish to speak to this lady before we move further on the application. Ma'am, if you would just come to the podium.
Just get your name and your civic address.
Sharon, and I live,
Okay.
my only concern is I have not seen the site plan. Seven parcels, where they are located. Ship to the buildings that are.
It's the buildings that are already there.
See.
Okay. Yeah, okay, well, thank you.
Get another notice in the mail down the road and you have a question, call the number on there and you'll have that information before you come down. Okay?
Thank you.
We'll wait till she.
Stay.
It's like there's
So do we have some, just
Yeah, I think we're gonna ask for a discussion. Members, because there's the issue on. Or comments from PUC about the servicing, so.
here's, so we can proceed. We can make a decision on the application. And I'll go on the presumption that we're going to proceed to approve. To speak it that way. If we approve it and the applicant has this approval and then he goes to PUC and engineering for servicing requirements and all that sort of thing, and his plan changes. That doesn't mean your approval will be any good to him. Might be, might not be, depending on what they want us. If we refuse it, it means he starts over again. And if we defer it, it means he tries to get some of those answers back to the committee before they make a decision.
Secretary is contacting her to see if you is in favor of doing this prior to, or you've
Well, I
already had
can-
discussions with him.
Can tell you that I sent the comments to both the applicant and his representative earlier in the week. And then I sent them again this no, I had a thank you, but
Just a question that, what makes this unique? As opposed to making a recommendation? Subject to satisfying the requirements of PUC. Facilities Commission and
because
its items.
you should know what those requirements are. And then you make a condition on satisfying what PUC has said they need. In this case, you saying we don't know what he's gonna need. We've already entered into some agreements for development as a whole. The servicing at the front is also part of the property. It may impact your decision. No. Committee likes to craft a condition to satisfy PUC. No. The way it can be done the way.
Yeah.
You defer it?
Can I ask for someone to put forth a motion to
I'll
defer?
put forth a motion to have it deferred.
And I'll
Based on-
second. Okay, favor?
Siny dive. And if that is to have it, that isn't right. Referral, check for. I has to bring back time. Hearing.
Schedule 4th of January. 24th of January, yeah. Firm.
So. Ask for a show. of hands.
The deferral,
To the next regular hearing of the
Okay,
committee.
so I'll ask for all in favor for defer to the next meeting. Perfect, thank you.
We're off the record. I just,
Which is the proposed hearing schedule for 2024. And again, it's subject to change. I've tried to get it so that it doesn't conflict with long weekends that you might be away, particularly, you know, May 24 and Canada Day and the Labor Day holiday for those, their kids back to university and stuff like that. However, that's what I've come up with is varying issues for anybody there. It's not in the East week or. And I respecting the fact that there will be occasion that you have to miss.
It's not the March break, is it?
No,
So you skipped all those?
yeah, I tried to, yeah.
good to meet you.
So tentative, we'll post it at this and then if we need to make change, it's always there that we can do it.
Off the record by force when we're done.
Yeah, well, meeting adjourned.